Hey guys, it's Miss Allen. I thought today we could talk about weaving. So I know a lot of you are interested in that. At least my fourth graders have had a little bit of a taste of it. My third graders may have had some with paper weaving, but I'm going to show you yarn weaving today. Now my fourth graders just got done with a project where we had a cardboard loom. And this is how we would do the weaving. It has all these little notches, and it might be easier to see on that side. It has all these notches cut into each side, and we wrapped or warped our loom with yarn. And my fourth graders, to make it a little easier, we skipped every other one, and it's all the way around the back. I'm going to show you how to make your own loom today, because I figured most of you don't have these cardboard looms at home. What you'll need is you'll need something a little sturdier, like cardboard. You could use a paper plate, but it's a little bit different of a weave with that, so I might have to get into some circle weaving later. But if you could find any type of cardboard, this just came from a box that I had in my house. I just cut it out to make a rectangle, and it can be longer if you want it to be a bigger weave, or it can be shorter like this for something a little easier. So you need the cardboard, you need a pair of scissors, a ruler would be really helpful, and a pencil. Let's show you how to make one. So I've already cut the side on this side just for sake of the video, but I'm going to teach you how to do it to this side too, because with our looms we need cuts on one side and cuts on the other one. With the size that I have, I made 10 cuts. You can have as many cuts as you want or can fit, but know that the more cuts you have, the harder it's going to be. So just to show you what we're doing, I don't know how well you can see that, but I've made a mark that's 1/2 of an inch from the edge on both sides, and I'm going to use my ruler as a straight edge to connect those two marks for a nice straight line. So, with my ruler, I'm going to measure out 1/2 of an inch at along this line going up to the top of the loom. So starting at the end, I'm going to go 1/2 an inch, and I'll make a line up, 1/2 an inch, up, 1/2 an inch, up. And I'm going to do that all the way across my paper. My lines don't have to be perfect. What's important is that they are spaced evenly. So on my piece, that made 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Once you have evenly spaced lines, we're going to cut the notches. So I'm going to cut each line down to this line that goes across. So that's cutting the vertical lines that go down to touch the horizontal line. I don't want to cut any further than that, because if I do that, it's going to push my weaving down further. So I am going to stop it at that line. Great. So now that my loom is ready, we're going to start warping, or wrapping the string around the loom so that we can weave. So I'm going to use an orange yarn. You can use any color you want to. I just thought the orange was going to stand out nice and bright on this white cardboard that I have. But with my loom, I'm going to use the yarn to wrap around the cardboard. Now, to my fourth graders who did this with me, we used tape to secure the tail. I'm going to show you a little bit easier of a way to do this without tape. So I'm so sorry to my fourth graders for leading them astray with this. But I'm going to take the tail, and I'm going to put it through a good ways through the back of the cardboard. So here's that little itty bitty end of the string, and it's going to lay in front. Now from here, I'm going to wrap each of my notches. So it'll come down to the bottom notch. It connects through. Now I'm going to turn it so you can see what I'm doing on the back too. It comes up to connect through the next notch because I can't go back through the one that has the tail, so I have to go to the side, okay? Now when it comes through that notch, I'm going to come all the way down through the notch, around the back to the next notch, all the way down through the notch, whoop, up around the back to the next one. And it's easier to do this if you have not cut your string. Don't cut your yarn until you've wrapped it all. That way you're not wasting string. And then when you run out, you'll have some extra here. And this is where I'm going to cut. And I might give myself a little room on this. So now I have the tail that I started with and the end of the string that I just cut. Instead of taping these down, I'm going to tie them together like a bow, kind of like a shoe. You don't have to do it like a shoe if you don't have enough time, but it's going to have the same start to the shoe. So you have 2 strings, you cross them over, one goes under the first. Now I can knot that by doing the same thing again. So I have these 2 strings. I start it like a shoe. One goes under the other and pull it tight. So now I have this extra that I can trim off a little bit, but that knot's not going to go anywhere, and that's going to keep my loom nice and tight, just like a guitar. So now we're going to add other string to the completed loom and start weaving. The string we're going to add, if I'm saying the term correctly, I'm so sorry, I might have forgotten, but I think this is called a weft. And we're going to weave the weft through our string. So the first thing I have to do is I have to pick a color. I picked this nice, pretty aquamarine color. I think a lot of my students in 4th grade were calling this the teal color. So to measure my string, I like to use my arm. And it's not really an exact measurement, but what I do is I hold the string in my hand. I go under my elbow, back up and hook it with the thumb. 1, and I'm just going to do 2 wraps. 2. So that's wrapped around my arm twice. I'm going to cut it here, and now it's ready to use. You'll see some videos tell you just to hook this into the bottom and then weave, but I'm actually going to tie it. The reason I like to tie it is because it holds my weave at that spot, and I think it makes it look a little easier, and also I don't have to worry about trying to tie this later. There are ways to do it without tying, but I like to tie. So I'm going under that first string, and I'm just going to make a knot. It really doesn't have to be a very hard knot. It can just be 1 knot. I like to do at least 2. So now that string's not going anywhere. I'm going to trim the excess of it and get rid of that. And now this string is ready to weave. I'm going to go find, and that's a long piece of string, but it'll be good. I'm going to find the end of my string, and I'm going to start an over-under pattern. So this first string is over because it's already tied. That's going to be an over. This string is under, so I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. If you have an even number of notches, you're going to end with an under. I like even numbers, so I tried to keep mine to even numbers, and it ends with under. Once I get that, I'm going to pull it all the way through. Now, once I get a straight line, I'm going to stop pulling. If I pull too tightly, look what happens to that first string. It starts coming in, and that's going to make it harder to weave later. So if you do that, just back it up a little bit, and we have this nice straight line that goes all the way across. Now, I'm going to keep weaving this way. This first string going back is now going to be my under, or excuse me, my over. And you want to think I'm going to do the opposite of what I'm seeing with the first string. So if you see the orange above your color, then you need to go over top for the next one. So over, under, all the way across. When it gets to the end and it starts to pull, I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to push the weave down. So now I have two lines, and I'm going to keep going with that. Let me show you a pro tip real quick, and I'm not sure I can do it because mine might be too tight. But you could always push your ruler or a popsicle stick, something, under and kind of turn it. And what that does, and I'm going to turn it to the side so you can see, what that does is it lifts the strings up so that it's easier to get through. But I don't like doing that because I'm afraid it will stretch out my weave. So I'm going to keep going. So I got my two wraps, and you can see it's going up, and it's going to continue to go up. I can add as many colors as I want to, and as much as I want to, as long as it stops up here at the top. The next color I'm going to add is this pink. I'm going to show you how to add that color very quickly, and then I'm going to let you weave. But you get as many wraps as you want. Maybe you want two, maybe you want one. Maybe you want more, maybe you want three. But when you're ready to add a new color, you're going to take the string that you have and you're going to make a knot. And I'm going to try to show that close up. So I have the end of my first string and the end of my second string. I'm going to match those so that they are the same here. I'm going to wrap it around one of my fingers, and I'm going to very carefully take my finger out, and that leaves a loop. Does everyone see the loop? Once I have the loop, I'm going to push these ends of the string back through the loop, and then I'm going to very carefully walk my knot down towards the end. And if it didn't get all the way to the end, that's fine. But once you have it, get both sides of both ends of your string, pull tight. Now that knot is not going anywhere. I don't want these tails anymore, so I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to very carefully trim my string. But once you have it, you can find the end of your second string and you can start weaving again. So once you get done, and I did 3 colors and just made myself a pattern, and I'm going to stop up here near the top where it gets really hard to weave. I left a little bit of that tail. I didn't want to weave it back across because I wouldn't have room to tie. I'm going to do what I did down here with the first one. I'm going to make a knot going around this string, and how I'll do that is I'm going to pull up on the string that's already in the weave. I'm going to take the tail of my string and I'm going to go under. Oops, sorry, you can't see that. I went under that string. I'm going to go through the loop and I'm going to pull. What that'll do is that's going to secure it. If you want to do that again, you can. Makes it a little bit more secure. It's going to lock it in place. I'm going to trim that little bit off, and voila, we have a weave. Now I'm going to show you how to take it off of the weave, or off of the loom. So to take it off of the loom, and the reason you want to take it off the loom is so I can make another weaving and I can change the colors. You could just leave it on here, but then you can't use the loom anymore. I'm going to take mine off. So I'm flipping over to the back. You remember we did the back. I'm going to cut this string that goes across all of my strings in the middle. Doesn't have to be exact middle, but you're going to cut that string, the 2 tails, and I put the bottom one down at the bottom and the top one down up here at the top. And I'm going to go across the middle and cut the rest of my strings. Now, all the ones at the top come up, all the ones at the bottom come down. And I had a funny 4th grader tell me it looked kind of silly, but once I have all of the strings, I'm going to start pulling them off of the loom one at a time to get 2, okay? You only want 2. If you pull them all out, it's going to make it really difficult for you. So you're going to pull 1 string out, and then you're going to find the 2nd string and pull the 2nd string out. Now when I have 2 strings out, I'm going to do what I've been calling a surgeon's knot. I'm not exactly sure that's the right term, but that's what I've been calling it. It's like a shoe, like the start of the shoe. One goes over the other. You pull it down to where it's touching the weave. Now I don't want to pull it too tight, because if I pull it too tight, it's going to push these strings down. So I'm just very gently pulling that until it touches. Then I'm going to do it again. 2. And the last one is 3. Surgeon's knot has 3 of these. 3. Now I'm going to trim that a little bit. You don't have to trim all of this off if you want some fringe, but I like trimming it a little bit. And I'm going to do that to all the ones on the top. And then I'm going to flip it and do all the ones on the bottom. So let me just show you one more time before I go into fast forward mode. But you're pulling out 1 string, 2 strings, cross them like a shoe, pull down gently, stop when it hits the weaving, do it again. 1, 2, and 3. And that 3rd one can be a stronger pull because those other knots will hold it in place. If you want to trim off the excess, you can, or you can leave a little bit. So let's go into fast forward. You can see I kind of left some fringe on mine. I like it that way, but you can always trim that a little bit more. Oh, I did want to talk about this real quick. If you have an odd number of notches, you're going to have one string hanging out by itself. If that happens, just tie 3 of these together, okay? So you do the surgeon's knot with one of the, or with 2 of them, and then you use the 3rd one and tie it onto one of the end ones as well. And that will lock it all in place. This should be pretty sturdy, pretty good. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and hopefully I'll do some more weaving. Depends on how you guys like it. I might try to do one every other week, but I will see you soon. Bye.